Welcome to my little webinar about raising the best winter wheat. Some of my observations come from over 30 years of direct hands-on experience with wheat, both as a crop consultant and as a grower myself. We all know there's the theoretical ideal planting dates, and then there's the year-to-year reality. But there are a few things we can control to some degree. First, our various state extension services have established a Hessian fly-free date that actually turned out to be a very good predictor of the best planting dates for each state. Today, the Hessian fly is no longer a threat. However, various types of aphids transmit two viruses that are a significant yield threat to wheat, the cereal and barley yellow dwarf viruses. As it turns out, the Hessian fly-free date is also approximately the period when the aphids are winding down for the season. It really is best for yields if we are able to plant close to that date established for your area, because it also coincides with the agronomically best time to plant. This picture illustrates the ideal wheat growth stage for going into winter. Saving some wheat from this year's crop to use for planting next year was a more common practice early in my career than it is today. I have seen the emergence and yield advantage for using treated seed versus untreated so many times, I know what a mistake it is to not use certified treated seed. Be a bit cautious with university trials. For one thing, their plots tend to be very small, which inserts a lot of artificial variability into the yield results. One Midwestern university, for another example, allowed treated private brand wheat seed to be compared to untreated public varieties. Definitely not a level playing field. Cast a wide net for yield information. A great source of information is the experiences of your neighbors and the comparisons they've made on their own farms. Okay, this is really a pet peeve of mine. So many times I see growers not spending enough time and energy properly adjusting their drill, and their wheat's emergence showed it. Impatience is a big reason sometimes that yields are not up to what could be achieved. Another consistent issue was driving too fast for the openers to cut heavy residue. You just got to give them some time to cut. And then when switching to conventional tillage, the down pressure springs must really be lightened up. Lots of times I've seen guys go right from no-tilling into a worked field without taking the time to reset the down pressure on not only the openers, but even more importantly, on the closing wheels. While wheat will germinate and grow even on the surface, planting at the right depth results in a healthy, developed root crown, setting the stage for strong spring growth and improving winter survival. If the seedbed is cloddy or the soil is dry, planting down to 1.5 inches is okay, but that's the limit. There are many opinions on seeding population. I worked for many years with a client who raised a lot of certified seed wheat, and we tracked the results for years as we kept bumping the populations. In fact, yields continued to climb until we were at 180 pounds per acre. Interestingly enough, population alone did not seem to be a factor for lodging. These bullet points about fall fertilizer are backed by years of research at the North Central Research Station at St. John's and elsewhere. Likely because of the close proximity of plants to each other, the fibrous roots intercept a higher percentage of the soil in the top few inches versus corn. That's why wheat can utilize fertilizer phosphorus that is broadcast about as equally as well as banded. Some phosphorus should be applied even when the soil test phosphorus level is high, because wheat will still respond to it most of the time. One thing that has been consistent over many years in different growing conditions is that ProGerminator out-yields everything else, regardless of the application method. While wheat generally doesn't have a strong response to potassium, including Sure-K with a ProGerminator will improve plant health and stalk strength. If planting into corn residue, add some N-response or 28% nitrogen to the fall broadcast to help decompose the stalks and avoid nitrogen tie-up in the spring. All right, so now we've no-tilled wheat into each of these fields. Spring is here, the wheat is breaking dormancy. What are the nitrogen requirements in each of these scenarios? On full cornstalk residue, increasing the rate is important to maintain enough nitrogen availability to the wheat plants. On silage residue, which is much less, the normal full rate is okay. I do like to see about 90 units of nitrogen on soybean residues. And regarding alfalfa, universities will tell you no nitrogen is needed for wheat no-tilled into sprayed-off alfalfa. In my many years of experience, however, the alfalfa does not decompose sufficiently to release enough nitrogen. 50 units was usually enough to make up the difference. Get the nitrogen out there regardless of which crop you planted it on, just when the wheat is breaking dormancy, and be sure to include enhance for sulfur and for nitrogen stability. If the weather prevents spraying at the right time and the wheat is taking off, switch to N response for less leaf burning. And you can always add a couple of gallons of water per acre to lessen the leaf burn even more. Timing on weed control is very important to minimize loss from weed competition. I like to see wheat sprayed by the time it's 6 inches, 8 inches would be maximum. And I would suggest talking to your area sales agronomist for the right products and the right rates for your area. I've used a lot of 2,4-D amine, Banville, or Clarity. I've also used a lot of the ALS products like Affinity Broadstrike, which is a very good broad spectrum application. What I like about those products is that the application window is wider than it is for the 2,4-D amines or the Banville or Clarity products that are on the market. This is a very interesting new product that I think will gain increasing usage. Palisade was introduced in about 2012, and it's allowing higher nitrogen rates while minimizing the lodging that normally accompanies the high nitrogen rates in wheat. Basically how it works is that it shortens the internodes and thickens the stem. From what I've seen so far, I do think it's worth trying in your operation. Yes, you should spray a fungicide. It's true, there are seasons when the weather is drier and sunnier, and therefore there's lower disease pressure. But over time, spraying a fungicide on wheat at flagleaf really does pay off in the long run. This is something interesting that we've discovered at our research farm. Is there a synergism between foliar nutrition and the fungicides? Research has shown significant yield increases from Fertirain and 2 gallons per acre plus Quadris, N response at 3 gallons per acre plus Quadris, and both of those treatments out-yielded Quadris alone at flagleaf. Interestingly enough, when we do the same thing with Coron, it actually suppresses yields to below that of just Quadris alone. And again, the fungicide timing is important. Be sure you're spraying on that flagleaf. And then we're done. Time to sit back, smoke a cigar, and wait for the great wheat harvest. The Lord willing and the creeks don't rise. The agronomists and sales agronomists at Agro-Liquid are always here to help. Thank you for listening to my presentation today, and please feel free to contact me with your questions.